I think should we start with Ferrari then? Because we're there.
I think we should start with Ferrari, but then go to the back and maybe work forwards, if you know what I mean.
Or we can start at the back and
All right, let's start. Let's just
let's start
start
at
at
the
the
back
back.
and
Let's start at the
let's
back.
start at the bottom.
Williams' lineup of Russell and Latifi. You got to say they're pretty well lined up actually for 2021. You know, keeping that consistency within the team. Yes, they've changed ownership,
Yeah,
but in terms of the drivers know the engineers and all the other people behind the scenes that
that's right.
you know they don't maybe get as much of a look in as they maybe should do.
I mean, Latifi is a good driver, and people are getting mental, and I will justify by saying Latifi's a good driver because he's solid. Is he going to be world champion? No. Will he get any wins? No. Will we see him on a podium? Probably not. But you do need some of those good stock drivers that can put in the miles and be consistent, which
Yeah,
he tends to be, and he keeps up with Russell. And to be all, to be honest, I think Russell is a future world champion for sure. I think he's well. We'll get on if you want to. As we know, what he did this year, super sub. You know, it
yeah,
was. He's. And when you see Russell on the TV talking about a lap or in front of the camera, he just comes across as the man, and um, he's got a very bright future in front of him, I think.
yeah. I mean, was last? I generally can't remember at this point. Was last year Latifi's rookie season? It was, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
In Formula
Was he
One, I
there the
mean,
year before? Was he there
because
before?
I thought it was Kubica the year before, wasn't it?
Kubica the year before. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah. So last year was
yeah, well,
Latifi's rookie year. So you got to
yeah.
remember, okay, he wasn't as good as George last year, but George did have a whole season on him in Formula One, and that can make a huge difference.
And also George is Mercedes. He's a Mercedes driver, and he come through the talent pool through
Mm.
there. So he's going to be good if you're getting into those echelons of being put in the driver training program.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, I think that you shouldn't knock Latifi. I think
No.
he's a solid driver.
Yeah.
So
And he's a nice guy as well, and I think we need more of that in Formula One.
yeah, he's Iranian. Is he Israeli?
I believe he's a part Iranian, part Canadian, but he obviously
Oh,
races under
okay.
the Canadian license. I
Yeah.
could be wrong with the Iranian side of things. I'm not entirely 100% sure.
Shall we do?
All I know is he's a Canadian driver.
Okay. Let's say he's from the Falkland Islands. So, but no,
Okay.
yeah, a good stock driver, and yeah, George Russell. Well, what can you say about George Russell? I mean, he binned it at that race when he probably shouldn't have, when he admitted he made a mistake.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
but that's learning curve, I'm afraid.
yeah, he'll come back stronger from that mistake. You know.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
it happened.
and at Mercedes, well, amazing. You know, we'll
Yeah,
come on to Bottas, but he must be crapping his pants because that was a
just a bit.
demonstration of how it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say he's rubbish because
He's not, but
I'm not. I'm 18 stone and fucking nearly 50, and I'm never going to fit in a car, let alone drive one. But and again, Bottas could be world champion. He's got that
yeah.
ability about him.
Well, I mean, look at Eddie Irvine. You know, nobody expected him to be challenging for the title all those years ago when Schumacher ended up breaking his leg, but it
Yeah,
happened. You know.
yeah, that's right.
But
So
speaking of Schumacher, his son is now in Formula One, of course, with the
yeah,
Haas F1 team.
and he did it the hard way,
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of. Back money backing, obviously, but he won, races. He was in the was it the Formula Three? He won the last
Yes, and Formula
step
Two.
up to that, and you know he did it on merit.
Hmm.
And he was against some two or three other pretty good drivers in there.
Hmm.
So I mean, I don't want him to. I don't think people should say, is he like his dad? I think that's unfair. So I think we need to let him settle in and
Hmm.
see what happens.
The thing is, with Mick Schumacher, he has got a bit of a pattern in the lower formulas of
Yeah,
taking a bit of time to get up to speed with the cars in his first season, and then the second season he's pretty much unbeatable compared to his teammates at least.
yeah,
So he does have that sort of a record, and it'll be interesting to see if he improves on that for Formula One, or whether it, that record continues, as it were.
I think they'll keep him. They won't just bin him after one season because of the Schumacher name. They want that in Formula One. And I think, I don't know what his contract length is. It might be 2 or 3 years. I mean, if he was shockingly bad, then yeah, they'll sideline him or put him as a reserve or something. But I think just watch this space and let him, just do his own thing. And how old is he? He's like 20, isn't he, or something?
Something like that. He's younger than me, which is weird to think.
But you're old rover liker. So.
I'm old. But yeah. And then, of course...
we can talk about his teammate?
Well, I was going to mention the only way I could see Mick maybe not having a drive in at least Haas is if Haas sells to somebody that is now sponsoring their team as title sponsor, shall we say? The Russian bloke.
Yeah, I mean, what do you say about this guy? I mean, he's got a really bad reputation as a pretty dirty driver. I mean, if you go online, I call him Marzipan. It was his name, Nikita, whatever.
Something like that, but
he got blackballed from a race for literally charging into somebody. Have you seen this footage?
I don't think I've seen that, no, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, it's just crazy. He was just deliberately ramming into people, and he isn't going to get away with that in Formula One. He's just going to be. He'll get points on his license, and it'll be over for him. Apart from his multi-billion dollar fortune father, who can, let's say, buy the team now.
I will say one thing actually on that. He does need to behave himself somewhat, but at the same time, he can maybe afford not to. And hear me out with this, because Haas, as we know as a team, is not a team with an unlimited bank account.
No, correct.
And if they lose, Mazepin or Marzipan or whatever you want to say about his name, regardless of what he's done off track or on track, this discussion is not about the things that he's done. We're talking about him as a driver at this point. Just for anyone watching this thinking, blah, 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 whatever. If Haas lose Marzipan, they could end up losing his father's sponsorship, which of course could potentially mean the team goes under. Have you seen the lack of sponsors they've got on their car for this year?
I haven't looked. I mean, I'll have a look. But yeah, you're right. But then I'm going to flip this on its head. Okay, not that I'm a supporter of Marzipan and his ethics on and off the track.
No,
but if James Hunt was coming through now, he wouldn't get a seat. And James Hunt was that womanizing, pot smoking, drinking Formula One driver from obviously the 70s. If nobody knows, I'm pretty sure everyone knows who James Hunt is. But if you don't, his story is amazing. It's him and Niki Lauda are incredibly funny together. But he wouldn't get anywhere. And I'm not defending Marzipan for what he did, because we're in an age where, James Hunt was 50 years ago, and his behaviour at the time was just seen as laddish. But in the day and age we are now, on and off the track, you can't do what they were doing then,
No, definitely not.
Because image is so important to a team. You've got to have that. You've got to have, we'll get on to Lewis Hamilton, and I know he divides the opinion, and I'm sort of on the fence about him, but it's difficult. But we're in a different age now to then, and with mobile phones and instant media and everything, they've got to be careful.
Yes, and I think that brings us to a good point to move on to Alfa Romeo. They're keeping the same lineup as 2020, and I think in 2020 they had a pretty solid lineup. Giovinazzi improved quite dramatically throughout 2020. Certainly did a lot better than he did previous year.
Yeah.
And of course, Kimi is very much Kimi. He just gets on with it and goes home and sits in a hot tub somewhere in Finland,
I
probably.
love Kimi Räikkönen. He's my favourite.
Oh, I love him too, but
Yeah, he's again. How is he? 41.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he's just shown he's a good driver.
he's consistent. He gets on with it.
Yeah, he's given the feedback. That's what you need. You have a guy who can give that feedback to the team. Will he be there next year? I'm going to stick my neck out and say he probably will be there next year.
Interesting.
If there's nobody. Well, I suppose it depends on who. Yeah, if another team want to put a driver in there, but yeah, an interesting character, Kimi Räikkönen. I can't really remember seeing his first races when the wheel came off. When driving to Stanford, I think it was at Imola or whatever it was, but yeah, I think you're right. Giovinazzi is proving to be a good stock driver, a good solid driver. Can't knock him.
No, definitely not. And speaking of you can't knock a driver, I mean, Gasly had an absolutely rubbish 2019.
Yeah.
Ended it quite well though with a podium in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Yeah. And obviously this year, 2020 even, got the ultimate redemption arc, a race win in the B team essentially. Obviously I know AlphaTauri is now the sister team of Red Bull.
Yeah.
But when they were developing the car, they were still very much a B team in mind. But
yeah. I mean, I've always liked Gasly as a driver. I think he's a good driver, and I think being in that Marco helm, whatever his name is, Red Bull, that is an awful environment to get into. He's a taskmaster and a half. So, but Gasly, it's probably changed his career. He might find himself in a bigger team in the future. You never know.
No, he might well do.
He's got that. He could follow the route like Checo does and get his break later on in his career. And
I honestly believe that Gasly will move to a different team, whether it be this year or next year. But I think he will. Right. I think he'll get out of the Red Bull family.
I think so. Because I think they just dangle your seat over your head all the time just to make you go fast, and not necessarily the right thing to do because you overdrive and you start making mistakes because your pressure's on you all the time. But I think you're right. I agree with you on that one. I think you'll end up somewhere else. Where I don't know. He could end up at someone like Williams if Williams start performing really well.
They might well do. Who knows what the future's going to hold, especially with the new regulations on the horizon.
Yeah. So you could see Russell go to McLaren. We'll talk about that, to Mercedes. And Gasly, good driver. Sorry rating.
And his new
well-deserved win.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't have mind seeing Sainz win either, personally, but I think we just got a good race overall at Monza last year. But
I think you're right. Because we'll come on to Sainz because he's another driver I really, really rate and I really like. So.
But Gasly's teammate, Yuki Sonoda, his new teammate.
Yes.
Personally, I can't say I know a lot about him, to be honest. I mean, obviously I know he's from Japan. But
I thought he was from Egham, personally, but...
But
I've not read much about him, but he's supposed to be pretty good, actually. I think he's a star in the future, they were saying.
Yeah, I've seen some of his highlights, shall we say, from Formula 2. I mean, I don't follow Formula 2 that closely.
No.
Mainly because I don't have Sky, so I can't watch it all the time. But if I do happen to see a clip, he seems pretty good in a car. He seems to know his way around and can do well. So I'm excited to see what he can do in Formula 1 this year.
I think he's rated a lot higher than most people think. I think because you have to remember the managers know on the inside who the drivers are. And I always remember about 2 years ago, Claire Williams talking about Russell, saying that he's one to watch. And the thing is, like with George Russell, you knew about him. I knew about him about 4 or 5 years ago in the lower league, saying that he was definitely going into Formula 1 and more than likely to be a future world champion.
Yeah.
But going back to the other driver, I think he's going to shine. Give him some time, like everything else, just go from there. Really, I think they need these young drivers in. But when you think about some of these drivers, you don't see anymore. If you were thrown out of teams at 21, and they're just nowhere now. It's
No,
just,
definitely.
it's wrong. They just bin them like you didn't get the results. It's the money. You didn't get the money in the team. You need those points to generate money. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
me battling on.
Yeah. Speaking of money, Ferrari, we can't not mention them. Ferrari, they obviously have a lot of money to throw at their car, but obviously this year maybe not so much because of the budget cap. But they
No,
do have a pretty good driver lineup, I think, with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz this year, of course, you know.
very. I think one of the strongest pairings on the grid. Really, you got to admit that. And I
Oh,
think,
absolutely.
yeah, two future world champions definitely. Um, I obviously Charles Leclerc. He is a bloody good driver. You
Oh, he's
know,
very quick, isn't he?
yeah. There's those group of drivers now. You can see them. We'll probably be able to say which ones. But you got Leclerc, Sainz. Yeah, they're all going to be that new future of, you know, Verstappen, Russell. You know, you've got these Lando Norris. You've got all these drivers. You all, for me, can all be future world champions without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely. As long as
And
they
we
give,
have,
as long as they're in the right car at the right time,
yeah, absolutely.
you know,
We could end up having a golden era, I think, because you don't just have Schumacher and Hill or just Schumacher.
or
You know, you
Hakkinen or anyone
or
else.
Hackman,
Yeah.
you've got that group of drivers and a group of drivers, a lot of flair. Let's go back to Ferrari. I mean, let's say Leclerc. You know, what more can you say? He's still young. He makes mistakes, but he's learning.
Oh, he's
And
absolutely learning.
he put Vettel in his place quite easily. You know, um, Sainz, yeah. I mean, he seems like he's been around forever. You know, and he's like 23 or something, and he or something
He's,
silly.
I think he's 25, 26, something like that.
25. Yeah, I mean,
But either
just look
way,
at it.
I think
Yeah, he's young.
I think Sainz has been criminally underrated in Formula One in his career so far.
I think so.
But he's definitely made his name a bit more known with McLaren.
Yeah, and I think having his dad on board in his team. I mean, for those who don't know, Carlos Sainz is Junior's dad. Carlos Sainz is former World Rally champion.
Toyota,
He
wasn't it?
won, yeah, I think he won it in the Subaru as well. He's won the Paris Dakar. He's done all sorts, you know, and he is a very talented driver. His dad, even now, and that's rubbed off onto his son with his skill. Yeah, and Carlos Sainz, I think he's going to be good. I really like watching him race. He's a good racer.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping for an exciting inter-teammate battle between him and Leclerc at Ferrari next season.
It's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be close. I'll be honest.
I think so.
I think Leclerc will have it this year, but
I think so, just because he knows the team a bit better than Sainz. Yeah.
But I think he's going to Sainz will upset Leclerc this year a few times, qualifying and in the race. I think he's just going to have to go for it. And
oh, absolutely. Just send it. Right.
I love the word send it.
Right.
Go on.
Let's go on to the newly rebranded Alpine team. Obviously, previously Renault.
Yeah.
They're retaining one driver in Esteban Ocon, but obviously
This
regaining.
new boy, I've never heard of him before. What's his name?
This new rookie, one of the four this year. Obviously, Fernando Alonso, I believe his name's called. As the joke.
Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with Ocon?
I think we should start with Ocon for the continuity
Cool.
of the team. Yeah, Ocon definitely had a solid end to 2020. Started off at a bit of a deficit to Daniel Ricciardo, I thought.
Yeah.
But he's certainly improved from that, hasn't he, really? I mean, he got P2 at Sakhir last year.
Yeah.
The qualifying difference between himself and Ricciardo, that came down quite dramatically through the year. You know, he's certainly showing signs that he could obviously improve further and further and further. And
I think it demonstrates giving someone time to improve over the season, because I have respect for him, because he's one of the only drivers his parents had nothing. They weren't multi-million pound. You know, they sold their house to get him into Formula One and get him up the ladder. And he is a talent. Again, it's nurturing that talent, and I think it'll
Absolutely.
be good having Fernando Alonso, the new boy in the team, because he's going to learn from him. I mean, Alonso should smash him on the head every weekend. But,
He should, but I honestly believe that Ocon will have just a little bit more pace over him, at least in the first few races of the year.
yeah, and obviously he's coming off this injury that he broke his jaw, didn't he, Alonso?
Let's put it this way, there's no denying Alonso has not lost any of his racing skill. He's proven that in
Yeah,
other formulas,
yeah, yeah,
WEC, IndyCar. He can still
yeah,
race and race well, but the matter of fact is he's been out of Formula One for 2 years, and the cars have changed quite a lot in those 2 years.
yeah.
So,
I don't understand it. Is it a gamble bringing him in because he's going to be 39, isn't he? And
I believe so, yeah.
Kimi Räikkönen is looking at the end of his career at 41.
I, th-
It's going to be interesting. I think he's going to be quick.
I
You
think
know,
I think what happened was Renault lost Ricardo,
mm,
and they they wanted to basically make big news by bringing a big name into their team. And
yeah,
of course, who's as big a name for Renault as their previous champion, Fernando Alonso?
yeah,
Obviously,
absolutely.
I know they're obviously now called Alpine, but still the same team fundamentally under the skin.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting year. I think Alonso will be disappointed. That's my view. I think
The
he
one
won't be competing against the big name.
the one thing that has been interesting is that apparently Renault or Alpine are now focusing a lot of their efforts on the 2022 car at Alonso's request to make that car as good
Oh,
as it can
really?
be. I think,
Yeah,
having seen the results they got last year with a couple of third places in a P2, obviously those races it did require one of the top runners to essentially, go off the track of, down to
yeah,
reliability or crashes or whatever.
yeah,
But yeah, they definitely showed a lot of progress last year. So I think Alonso feels if they can continue that progress into this season with obviously power,
yeah,
then he could make that car work for him. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do.
yeah. And it sounds weird, but a bit of an unknown force at the moment. I think. So we'll just have to see what happens there.
Yeah. Speaking of unknown
But,
forces as well,
yeah,
we move on to the newly branded Aston Martin team with their driver
yeah.
lineup of Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll.
Where do you want to start? You choose which driver you want to talk about first.
Let's talk about Vettel, shall we? He had an absolutely rubbish time at Ferrari last year, getting absolutely dominated by his teammates.
Yeah.
The car, for whatever reason, didn't work with his driving style. He
No.
he just couldn't make it work. But
But he sort of hasn't been able to make it work. They always say the narrow wing cars was the time when he
no.
was actually at his best. And that's not distracting from his skill because he's an incredible driver.
Well, let's put it this way: you don't just win 4 world championships just because you've got
No.
a good car. You've got to be able to pilot it essentially as well.
But I always thought he's one of these drivers that you sort of put him under pressure and he starts to make the mistakes. You can see it with, him and Mark Webber. When you get it's just that sort of, is he an out and out sort of Lewis Hamilton style racer? Has he got that flair? I don't know. But you're right. You win 4 championships, you are good. He's good.
Yeah.
For me, I hope he does a lot better than he did at Ferrari because I think they'll build the team around him.
I think so.
And that could be good. And maybe at the end of his career, he's now thinking, I've got a few seasons left. Why not enjoy it and help develop another team?
Yeah, but of course, we don't know which version of Vettel we're going to get at Aston Martin.
Yeah.
We know from 2020 at least that the Racing Point, which is obviously now the Aston Martin car, that was comparatively to the Ferrari very stable at the rear end. So, and Vettel, as we've seen in previous years, does like a car with a more stable and predictable rear end.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to think he can actually get further up the grid with that car than he could with Ferrari, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. I think that's going to be quite an exciting one to watch.
Yeah. And are we going to talk about, obviously, the rumours? We're going to talk about, obviously, Lance Stroll,
Yep.
who, and I'll be the first one to admit I would knock him because Daddy had the team. But I think he has generally pulled out some really good drives.
I think he's earned his place in Formula One.
I think so, yeah. And he, in his lower leagues, he was actually very, very good.
I think in his first few years in Formula One, it was questionable whether he should have been there at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Although, to his credit, he did get that podium at Baku in 2017.
He did, yeah.
You know, you can't take that away from him. But
right.
In 2020, he certainly proved himself a lot more than previous seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's good. It's good to see. I want to see competition.
Yeah. And I think you're right. He's earned his place in there. Should we talk about the shadow of Lewis Hamilton might be having to go in rumouring, or Lance Stroll's father has been talking about possibly poaching Lewis Hamilton at the end of his next contract.
I haven't heard this rumour, so feel free to elaborate. I haven't heard this one.
Well, he did discuss about possibly getting, if Lewis Hamilton was out of drive next year, what's the Lance Stroll's dad called? I can't remember. Lawrence, that's it. So he was on quite openly on some of the news channels saying that he would speak to Lewis Hamilton, getting them into Aston Martin alongside Vettel as like a super team.
That would be very interesting if they did.
That would be highly interesting. But it would be, I think, a thing about how much money they could pay Lewis Hamilton.
To be fair, if anyone on the grid can afford it, it's Lawrence Stroll at the minute.
Correcto, it's exactly right, and I would love to see that as these, 11-time world champions between them, in one team. So that would be quite interesting, and he has made it quite open that he would entertain that as a possibility. So
okay,
but it would depend on if Lewis goes from Mercedes.
I think if Lewis will leave Mercedes, I think he'd leave Formula One entirely, personally. I think he's got other interests.
You do not think well, should we go on? Well, let's go on to the next team. We'll talk about Lewis.
Let's talk about McLaren then, seeing as they finished P3 last year. McLaren, they've got a solid lineup for 2021. And of course with the new Mercedes power unit, so that could potentially make things quite interesting, especially with someone like Daniel Ricciardo, who obviously came from Red Bull, and there's no denying the what's the word I'm looking for? The impact he would have had on Renault. I honestly don't think they would have got the podiums they got without his influence on their car.
I agree, and I think him going to McLaren will. To be honest, I don't think he'll ever be world champion. That's my personal view.
I'd like to see him as champion, but
yeah, I would, because he's a good lad. I think going to McLaren is a very good move for him, because I think that team is about winning. That's always been there.
They want to win,
and they like racing. That's the other thing. That's what I think they are one of the teams that are sooner race and crash than not race at all. Sort of attitude, a bit like Williams. I worked with an ex-F1 mechanic engineer who worked at McLaren for a long time, and I chat with Mark quite a bit, and he said Ricciardo's a good move to that team, and he'll fit in well there. They'll have a laugh.
Especially
it's Zach Brown, isn't it? Was it Zach Brown?
Yeah, Zach Brown.
He likes them to go racing. He's talking about trying to get Jenson Button to go and do Indy 500, and he's got that passion to get the McLaren name out there with different drivers. And I think that's a really good view. And I think with Lando Norris, I love Lando Norris. I think he's just a good lad,
Yeah, he's a good laugh as well, isn't he? Especially with his Twitch streams and all that. I wouldn't say I watch them frequently, but I have seen a couple of them. They are pretty good funny.
Yeah. And I like the one he did when he put the crash helmet, the crash helmet for the girl who designed the crash helmet. She was 6 or 7 years old, and she didn't have enough paper to
So
put
she
the
put the
S
S
on the car.
below.
And I thought it was great they did that. And then even on the timing boards, they did that on the timing boards at that race. I don't know if you saw that. It was really funny.
Oh, I noticed that.
Yeah.
That was
So
good.
I think that's sort of that setup in that team's going to be, it's going to be good. If I had to go to watch one team for a year inside, I'd like to watch McLaren. I think it would be a laugh.
Yeah, I agree. I hope
I think
McLaren have
those two would help each other.
I hope they as a team have a very strong year, personally. I'd like to see McLaren back at the front.
They're going to win races, I reckon, this year. I reckon they'll pull out a couple of races.
That's bold. I hope so. I'd like to see it. I think Monza's their best chance, given how well they performed there last year.
Yeah. But it could be, the wind's in the right direction, other people drop out, but I think they might do it. And those two drivers will push each other a long way.
Oh, absolutely. Right, shall we move on to Red Bull?
Yes, because this is only going to last 20 minutes.
Yeah, just like the podcast.
Red Bull? Okay.
No, Red Bull obviously got a very strong driver lineup this year with Max and Checo. I will say with Checo, I think there's not really that much we need to say on Max. He's absolutely brilliant. He can work the car to suit his driving style, whatever sort of changes they make, whether it's got a fixed rear end or slightly slidey, he can just make it work with his driving style. He's very adaptable.
Yeah.
And honestly, the way he's looking at the minute, he is incredibly likely to be a world champion in the future. It just depends if he's in the right car at the right time. Just like I
think he's going to push the strap on, as we call him, the Stappen. I think he's going to push him they needed to pick a driver outside of that Red Bull talent pool. I think they needed someone like him to go in there and just to push their number one driver.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be definitely very interesting to watch Perez this year, given that their previous two young drivers couldn't make the car work as best as they possibly should have done. In the eyes of Red Bull, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I think he'll be quick.
It'll be interesting to see what a established driver can do compared to two drivers that are fairly novice at the time. Not Norris, novice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've told you this before. I'll make the predictions. I don't think Verstappen will ever be a world champion. I just don't know why. I just don't think he'll get there.
I think he will be, as long as he's in the right car at the right time.
Yeah.
Will it be this year? I don't know. I'd like to think Honda can throw everything, but I think Mercedes will just have the jump. But we'll come on to that discussion in a moment, because let's just talk about Mercedes' driver lineup. Very strong, continuing on from last year. Very much keeping the consistency. Yeah. Bottas gets a lot of shtick on social media for not being as quick as Lewis, but you got to remember there are times when he's only, he's not, it's marginal. It's
not even a blink of an eye. It's less than the blink of an eye.
So there's no denying he is quick, but he's just not quite as quick as Lewis.
Yeah. Any other time, Bottas could be world champion. Yeah. Any other driver in that car, maybe Russell, but if he had he would have been world champion.
Yeah.
And he's a likeable sort of guy. He's excellent in interviews, and I've seen the grief that he gets online, and I like the way he deals with it as well, because I do the same way as him, just basically telling them where to go, sort of thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'll probably be his last year there, though. That's what I think.
I'm not sure. I could see him maybe going to another team if a space opened up, but I think
I meant at Mercedes, sorry.
Oh, Mercedes, okay. But given that he got the likes of George, who, although he didn't win the Sakir Grand Prix last year, he certainly showed what he's got in a matter of circumstances, i.e. driving behind a safety car, restarts, dealing with the problems that they got, I think he actually proved more that race than if he'd have just won it outright, personally.
I agree, and I think it's not just jumping in the car, like you say, winning it. He had all those problems to deal with, and that shows the maturity of a driver that he knows what he's doing, you know, driving a Formula One car high speed and having to talk to your team, to do all those other things, it's just insane.
Whilst learning the car as well, remember, it's a very different car from the Williams.
Exactly, and he couldn't fit in it properly.
No,
So
no.
it was, so that it was to me the most impressive drive as a whole thing. I thought Russell did a really good job there.
I
But yeah,
see Russell in the same way with Mercedes as Verstappen with Red Bull before he went to Red Bull.
yeah,
Red Bull got Verstappen out of Toro Rosso before any other team could poach him.
yeah,
And I think ultimately Russell going to Mercedes will be for much the same reasons. He's
yeah,
proven what he can do. Another team will get him if Mercedes don't.
yeah. He is class, and that's it. And that Mercedes are building their future, and they'll build it around him. I think quite convincingly. I'm quite convinced about that.
I think so. And of course we got the now titled Sir Lewis Hamilton in Mercedes,
Yeah,
continuing on from last year. Hopefully he can continue his form.
I hope
Basically,
so. I mean, he's genuinely one of the best drivers you'll ever see. He's just so skilled, And
honestly, I'd love to see him get 8 world titles, but I want to see him challenged for it.
yes, I do agree with that. But I think he would still win.
Oh, I think so.
I think he's got the mindset. He's certainly got the ability. I'd like to see him go to Ferrari or someone like that, just to see what he could bring to the game. It won't happen. I think you're right in a way that if he leaves F1, it'll probably be for good. And he'll go off and do something else. It'd be good to see him in the E Formula. I know he's got his E team with the off-road team.
Yeah, I know which one you mean.
Yeah, E Stream, whatever it's called. So, and I think he is, and he doesn't. I've never met him. He's a bit like Andy Murray. He doesn't particularly have a great personality, but I love Andy Murray. I think he's a great character, and I think Lewis Hamilton's the same. He's proved it all, and I don't understand why he gets grief because they come from nothing. He's one of the only other drivers where his dad do 3 jobs. They had nothing. He's got there on pure talent. And as ever in this country, in the UK, they have to beat him down. The good thing is he just doesn't give a 2 hoots about it. He just doesn't care.
No, I agree. But as I say, for this season, I'd like to see him challenged for a title, but I would ultimately like to see him win 8.
Yeah.
But 2021,
Absolutely.
anything can happen. Shall we do a quick run through of our top 10 of the teams and then probably bring this to a close because it's gone for quite a long time already?
I know it's gone way too long. We've done this in 2 bits.
I know. Maybe I'll split it into 2 parts. Okay,
Yeah.
Here's what I predict. I think Williams will not finish last this year.
I agree with that.
In the Constructors, I think Haas's rookie lineup will hurt them.
I agree with that as well.
I think Williams having that consistency, it'll help them jump up to at least 9th. And Haas will be 10th.
Yeah.
Bear in mind these are all predictions. They could be wrong. Who knows? I think Alfa Romeo will stick roughly where they are. I can't see them moving much further forwards at this stage. Who knows? If Ferrari's engine really is as good as they're saying it is, they could go further forwards, but it remains to be seen. AlphaTauri, I think they'll pretty much stay where they are as well. I think they'll get more into the midfield fight with the likes of Alpine, McLaren, possibly Ferrari, but we'll see. Next up, I'm going to say Alpine. I think Alpine are going to drop back because they're focusing more on next year rather than this year.
Yeah, agree with that. Yeah,
I don't mean that as I don't mean it as a slight, anything against them. I just think that they're going to be focusing a lot more on the 2022 regs than the 2021.
Yeah.
So I think that will hinder them this year, but they'll gain next year.
Yeah.
Then I want to say I think Ferrari will be the next team because I think Aston Martin are looking quite strong already.
Yes, I agree with that. I think they're going to be the team to watch. Definitely is Aston Martin.
But I think it's going to be quite tight between the likes of AlphaTauri, Alpine, Ferrari, Aston Martin, and McLaren.
Yeah.
But I think McLaren is going to just have that edge over Aston Martin, because I think if any of the teams on the grid can make a engine change work, it's going to be McLaren.
Oh, they've got that. They got years of experience, they are one of the ultimate Formula One teams, regardless of their performances lately. They know how to do it,
Yeah,
and they've got the wind in their sails as well. Which that always when they're on the up, that's when they're dangerous.
Well, look at the change they made when they changed to Renault. They suddenly jumped up the grid by quite some way.
Yeah.
So I think with Mercedes power, they can make quite a drastic change forwards.
Yeah. It's that they'll be obviously they'll be one of the teams to watch with Aston Martin.
And obviously the driver lineup, it makes it quite exciting as well.
Yeah. But I think Aston Martin, I think they are going to be fast out the box. They will. You know, they're going to be, Lawrence Stroll is making all the right noise. I think they know they're going to be quick.
I hope so. I'd like to see another team up there.
Oh, I agree. I think it's time we had more than one thing.
I think Honda, at least, Aston? No, Red Bull. What am I saying, Aston Martin?
Yeah.
Red Bull, they will be closer to Mercedes this year, but I think Mercedes will still have the edge.
Oh, I can't see anybody else than Mercedes winning it. No. Unfortunately. But I think you're right. It will be closer, but I cannot see. The Red Bull getting that close, but they might take some wins. You never know.
I think they'll get more wins than they did last year, simply because there's more tracks on the calendar suited to what their design philosophy has been.
Yeah.
So I think Red Bull are more likely to win more races than last year, given they only won 2. But
are they going to Monaco this year? Because that's always a good track for.
Yep, going to Monaco, going to Mexico, Brazil. Tracks that all seem to work for Red Bull.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Starts this weekend.
Yeah. But in case you can't already tell in this video is filmed prior to pre-season testing. That's starting this Friday. It is currently Tuesday the 9th. So let's see. Will testing show us anything? Who knows? But I think we should wrap up this video here, Carlos. I think it's gone for quite a long time.
Yeah, you said to me this only takes 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it sort of developed into a bit more. But I may split this into part 1 and part 2. I haven't decided yet. We'll see. I'll have a look at it in the editing suite.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's been good, and we should do more of these things when we can.
I think so. But yes, these are both mine and Carl's predictions going forward into the 2021 season, and some of the changes as well that you can expect between the seasons. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you're a fan of Formula 1, let us know in the comments below. What are your predictions? Obviously, just bearing in mind, these are all opinions. They are our opinions. It does not mean necessarily that we're right. It doesn't mean that we're wrong either. It just might happen. It might not. Who knows?
We're just talking. We don't care really, do we?
No, not really. But no, let us know your opinions down in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen in 2021? Who do you think is going to be fighting for the championship? Who do you think is going to win the midfield battle, Formula 1.5?
Yeah.
I think wrap it up here. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, thank you very much for watching. And we'll see you in the very next video.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.